Super Paper Mario!
Yeah, speaking of fucking things over, let's talk about how Super Paper Mario fucked Thousand Year Door in the ass and took all of its good assets and tossed them away.
It's a rare example for me. It's uncharacteristic, but I will honestly say the story of Super Paper Mario is so good, and I like the villains so much, that I am willing to overlook, like, every single shitty thing about it.
I used to be like that because I agree entirely. I love Super Story and I love Count Bleck. He's such a good character.
And his entire team of villains. Nastasia, and Mimi, and O-Chunks with their...
Mimi, O-Chunks, Dementio, and Mr. L, if you want to count him too. It's all good. It's all good. They're riding at their peak.
I think the only big difference between you and me... The only big difference between you and me on Super Paper Mario is I still find Super Paper Mario an enjoyable game in its own right. You don't like the gameplay style, right?
Here's the thing. If it was just a 2D Mario game, like, it would be a weird shift, but it's not a completely terrible shift. Like, I love myself a good 2D Mario game, but so it's not the gameplay itself, it's what they fucking do with it that it makes me so angry. So, Super Paper Mario, let's talk about the good things, since, you know, that's going to be a lot easier and shorter to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe not easier, but shorter to talk about at the very least.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, like I said, the only good things that are really stand out for me are the story in general and the characterizations of the only 2.5 characters you give a tenth of a shit about.
Yes, and, like, for those instances, it is one of, if not the best story Mario has ever had. Because, I'm not kidding, I love it all so much. In fact, I love the story so much that there was, like, a fan fiction, like, story, sequel, continuation, Super Paper Mario, and it's real good, and I was like, yeah, I love that shit. I want to see more good storytelling like the one in Super Paper Mario, because that's some good shit, real good shit.
I mean, kind of tellingly, this is not a compliment. The story would have been just as good and just as potent and just as memorable if it had nothing
wasn't
to do
Mario.
with Mario at all.
And you know what? It basically is that way anyway. Because despite the whole thing revolving around, like, oh, the Chaos Heart is created by Bowser and Peach's marriage. Oh god, Mario Odyssey, I fear for it now. But, it's centered around, those... That's what it was like, even, like, that's what it was... what's the name? It was sold on. That was the big promotional thing. Bowser and Peach are getting married, and the world fucking implodes. That's what they, made all the shit about.
But because they made it a big dimensional travel story, they could have picked an evil king and a princess from anywhere in the multiverse, and because the rest of the game takes place in the center of the multiverse, it has nothing to do with the Mushroom Kingdom or anyone you know or care about, or even if it's new locations, it's like new locations in the Thousand Year Door, you still had that immediate connection to it because it was definitely a Mario location.
Yes. It's not even the case in Super Paper Mario. Because like I was saying, like, other than the very beginning and I guess Luigi, Mario and the other heroes have nothing in the story. They don't do shit except be the characters that jump on enemies and kill things. Whoop-de-fucking-do, we're the delivery boys, the main character is Tippy, and Bleck.
Yeah.
And that's it. And even then, Luigi, with his main, his big involvement is the fact that he's someone else. He's Mr. L. He's brainwashed into a completely different character. And then when you get him back, it's at the end of the game. And then you lose him at the very end of the game, when he's technically Mr. L again, and he's just a brainwashed pawn for the final boss.
They try so hard to characterize each of the individual worlds with varying degrees of success, But because each world is completely unrelated, they're starting from ground one, each world is based off of, like, a single concept or a single joke. And that means that you're just not able to develop it enough for me to care most of the time. Like, I will admit, like, I feel bad for Squirps at the end of the space chapter. But then they immediately ruin that, because if you ever go back, he just comes back, like, completely fine.
Hi, I'm not dead.
I thought that, like, the whole thing between the Kragnons and the Florisapiens, like, if you stretch that out into an entire game, like the flower people revolting because proto-humanity was destroying their water source, that's a good plot. But when you condense it into a 30-minute chapter with no internal storytelling, you take a good twist, but the only part of the story is the twist.
And then you forget about it when you go on to the very next chapter.
Because it doesn't relate to anything.
Exactly! That's another major problem with Super, is that every world is its own story, and then barring, like, small, certain exceptions that, you know, melt from certain aspects of different worlds, they add up to nothing. Really, the only character that comes from one of those worlds that ever really gets involved in anything again is Merle, because she gets her own store in Flopside.
Okay, but here's the thing. Like, Merle is such a forgettable character, and what she does in Flopside is so unnecessary. I didn't even realize it was the same character in my first playthrough.
Well, Merle this is her worst incarnation. Like, even though she's given a major character status, it's such a downgrade to what she used to be. Like, oh man, more coins at the end of the battle? Oh man, double my experience after a boss fight? Holy shit, I love you, Merle. And then random items. Okay. Random, like, not very useful items. Thanks, I guess.
Even the hub world in Super is disconnected. Because the Flipside residents don't know that Flopside even exists, and vice versa. Like, you're setting yourself up for a lot of amazing jokes about, like polar opposite people living in opposite towns. But, like, this is the city in the middle of the multiverse, right? Mm-hmm. Like, why the fuck? If you want to connect the series, the different levels, even remotely, why the fuck are you not able to have, like, a couple residents from each individual universe move into Flipside after each world?
Yeah. Also, very small nitpick, but you, like, talking about Flipside and Flopside reminded me of this. Why the fuck is Merlin's, like, alternate self Nolrem? That doesn't even fit with the Mer pun.
It's Merlin backwards.
Yeah, but it's not... They're part of the same family. It's Merlin, Merlumina, Merlee, Merlovely, Nolrem?
I guess now that I actually think about it, no one else in Flopside has that naming convention?
Exactly! Like, Dillis? Her alternate isn't Salad.
It's Phyllis. Like,
Phyllis,
Dillis
whatever.
and Phyllis, How's It and What's It.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the Flipside Flopside counterparts are actually, like, a little bit clever.
Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to see for the entirety of Flopside, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like, How's It and What's It are probably the best examples, the shopkeepers. Because How's It is like, hey, how are you? I'm customer service personified. And What's It is like, hey, buy your shit.
Yeah. Though my favorite of the guys is the one that's just sitting out in space, being so lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
well, you don't even get to see him, right?
Well, you do see him. You see his body. The ones you don't see are the ones in the Itty Bit stores.
Oh. Right.
I never really cared for Itty Bits. They gave you the random shit, like hot sauce and hot dogs.
It's good for cooking. But again, because I never use items, and I feel like items are even more useless in Super than they are.
They are. They are the most useless in Super. All you need are, like, shroom shakes, and that's it. And you get those throughout the game. And if you're going for, dear God, the pits of 100 trials, emergency rations.
Mm-hmm.
But since there's so many bad things to talk about in Super, let's go through this chapter by chapter. First chapter is actually pretty standard.
You'll have to remind me which chapter's which.
The first chapter is the one with Fractail, or was it Ractail?
The only thing that bugs me about the first chapter is that the first chapter is like doing triple duty with scenery.
It starts off with a grassland, then suddenly
and then it turns into a mountain, and then it turns into Egypt.
Yeah, what the hell? Why?
Well, I think they were just trying to get through all their normal stuff, because, like, there's the joke, every Mario game...
Every first level is a grass level, every second level is a desert level.
I'm a little bit mad about that, too. Like, I will acknowledge that, but, like... The first level being a grass level is just a standard for games by now. You could have just had your first level be a grass level, and then ignore the desert level completely. Don't try to compress it just to, like, run off a checklist. There's no reason to have a checklist in the first place.
If you're going to merge a grassland into a barren desert, don't make the middle area be a mountain, because that's not a clear segue. Like, have there be a lot more grass in the early parts of the mountain. Make the mountain, like, be an incline and then a decline. Like, incline, there's less and less grass, and then you get to the top, and then you go all the way to the bottom, and it's more and more and more dry.
Proto, I hate to tell you this. There's actually a sense of internal logic there. Deserts are usually on the other side of mountains because all the rain falls on the mountain. Yeah, but, like, artistically, it didn't come across right.
Have it look good.
Yeah. That's
there is actually one thing that I do like. The fact that
every chapter is divided into 4 segments, I think really hurts
dumb.
A lot of the...
It's dumb. There's no point to it.
It really hurts the flow of it because, like, the segments don't go into each other.
Yeah, they just flow very poorly.
And there's no better example of that than the first chapter. Changing scenery every single segment.
That's the worst of it. It's not as bad when it's the third section to the fourth section, because
oh my god, and you even get your mountains later in the game. Like, what is the difference between the mountains in Chapter 1 and the mountains in the Craignon chapter?
It's bad. One thing I will say I do like about Chapter 1 is the 2 brothers, the one in red and the one in green. The one in red is a lot nicer. The one in green is more of an asshole. And the one in red has, like, the really shitty bridge, and the one in green has a big fancy one. But if you go into 3D, the one in red actually has a full bridge in 3D. And in the 3D version of the Green Brothers bridge, it's completely flat. You have to be in 2D to cross it. So it's technically a shittier bridge.
Yeah, even with everything I'm complaining about this game, I don't like conceptually, I will acknowledge that it has a lot of that Nintendo-style polish.
It's got polish, and it's got neat little things in it. But it's just majorly just not good. And it really, like, starts to get really, really shit in Chapter 2. Fuck the rubies. Fuck the rubies in general.
That's something I hear all the time. It never bothered me that much. I don't feel like it took that long.
It's not hard, but it's just... And it's not, like, technically that super duper long, but you are just constantly tapping the 2 button to jump onto this block 100 times. And now that you've got it done 100 times, and now you got 100 rupees, now you're able to get to the password to get to the hamster wheel. And now that, you can run in place for, like, 3 minutes at least.
I mean, maybe it's a little easier on me just because I tend to always have a phone or a tablet or a laptop next to me when I'm playing video games.
But what, back in the day, though? Like, when there wasn't as much shit?
Oh, even back in the day, yo.
Oh, well, fuck me. I mean, I'm still using a CRT TV for my Wii games and shit like that. But, I hate the rubies. It's stupid. I like the concept of Mimi, like, being a trickster, but you gotta go through a lot of shit. and it's just not fun.
Like
the
I said,
rubies
the
is
parts
just
of the game that I like are enough to make me overlook a lot of the parts I don't like. So maybe the reason I hate Chapter 2 less than most other people is because Mimi is one of the parts of the game I really like.
Oh yeah, I like Mimi, and I like the concept behind her. And I love the chase sequence that she gets, because it's actually pretty fucking creepy.
I actually really like the, Merly quiz at the end of it. I didn't know my first time through that, like, you can cheat, and the real Merly is the one that has flies buzzing around her because she was hiding in a toilet.
Yeah,
no, but
the
answers to those questions are funny to me because Mimi pretending to be Merly will do plain out pandering and desperate compliments to
Mario
you.
Up. I like the fact that she still keeps it in rhymes though. I like that
the real Merly, she's weird, but she also has this desperate cougar crush on you. It's a lot more subtle, but it comes off really nicely in contrast with Mimi's fake compliments.
I'd do Merly. Not in Super. She's like a twig. But, you know, first game maybe.
Paper cuts on your dick.
It was Mario's story in the first game, not necessarily Paper Mario. I'll take what I can get. I'll take sprites over paper.
Chapter 2, even if I don't find it as bad as everyone else, it's bad.
Yeah.
Chapter 3 was the Bitlands.
Yes, which was actually not a bad level in general. It was pretty good with some good platforming. I don't like
lots
the
of
tree
nostalgia.
segment.
Lots of nostalgia, good
segment,
jokes. I liked the Bowser bits. I liked the boss.
Yes.
But the Bitlands lacked coherent overall theming.
You're suddenly in grasslands again. Oh, now you're suddenly underwater. Now you're on a tree, and then you're in a castle.
Every other world tried to make it seem like it was actually a world. The Bitlands were hey, you remember this old Mario aesthetic and one nerd? It just didn't work the way anyone else did.
And
the other worlds barely work in the first place.
There's a giant blooper in every Paper Mario game. That's another one of the things that happens in every game.
And they get worse every game.
Yeah, there's the giant bloopers. There's the 3D pigs. What was the 3D pig in 1000? Oh yeah, the fucking Twilight Town.
Yep.
3D pigs everywhere.
Then in this game, to mention this back
space
then.
Pigs.
That is okay. Two more things on the 1,000-Year Door, then we're gonna move on. I just forgot to mention them. That is the cleverest fucking pun. For whom the bell tolls is the name of the chapter. The saying is, ask not for whom the bell tolls. And everyone who gets turned into a pig gets turned into a pig 5 seconds after they ask about the bell.
Yeah, except for the mother who you give food.
She mentions it.
Does she?
Yeah, it's not as obvious as the rest of them, but she does mention it.
Yeah, but that's good. That is very good. That's...
Second thing I forgot to say about the 1,000-Year Door, then we'll move on. The X-Knots, apparently they're called the Cross-Knots, and it makes way more sense in Japan because their little X over their chest salute. I already talked to Proto about this, but for anyone who doesn't know, that's a generic, no good, don't want symbol in Japan with your hands. And knot means, astronaut specifically in Japanese because they didn't have, nautical ocean faring back when that meant that. So in Japan, the cross knots translate almost directly to the no good Space Boys Brigade. It's amazing.
I still think X-Knots sounds way better because I think Coop says this when Junio mentions, the X-Knots. Coops mentions, it sounds like tissue paper to the extreme. Because it does. I would buy a tissue brand called X-Knots.
But if you know that it's supposed to be pronounced cross, or that cross is an alternate pronunciation, a lot more of the puns come through. Tech XX. Tech XX
double cross.
Is yeah, that's a pun that just did not exist in English. But enough reminiscing. Let's get back to shit talking Super.
Chapter 3. What was Chapter 3 again?
The Bitlands.
Super. The Bitlands, that's right. Alright, we already talked about that. Yeah, that's actually my main feeling about the Bitlands. They're alright, but they're not super duper memorable.
the first 3 parts of it are completely forgettable to me.
Yes.
I like the charge on Bowser's castle, but that's like 2 minutes of the entire game. And then Fort Francis. Fort Francis is hilarious because it's just like an entire chapter devoted to shitting on nerd culture.
So many Thousand Year Door references.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
I mean, I appreciate them, but...
Yeah, I love Thousand Year Door too. But
another one of those things that... This is only true for the first 3 games, not the rest of them. There was a token mention to Clubbas in the Fort Francis segment. Because...
Well, the Clubbas appear as enemies.
Yeah. No, but in the first 2 games, Clubbas were the final boss of Chapter 3. So
That's
Francis...
right.
Yeah, Francis has one obligatory, like, oh, I sure love this random Star Trek reference that I inserted the word Clubba into.
I never noticed that, actually. Huh. That's actually pretty good detail.
It's a little awkwardly inserted, but, points for trying.
Yeah.
Then Chapter 4... Was Chapter 4 space? I always feel like space should be later in the game.
Chapter 4 is indeed space. Because I remember after Chapter 3 was when Tippy was closer to the group. And that's when they were showing that happening in the space area. So Chapter 4 was indeed space.
Alright.
And space...
I really liked getting there. The joke about, like, you suffocating in space and then all you need to do is put a fishbowl on your head.
I like the fish that grows larger and eats people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that little gag. Even though it technically doesn't really make sense, because Mario was already in space on the moon before...
But I mean, it doesn't need to make sense, it's a joke.
Yeah, it's a joke. Maybe two-dimensional space is different from three-dimensional space.
It's kind of like how Sam and Max needed, like a rocket and paper bags to go to moon in the cartoon, but then they just walk around on the moon fine in the game.
Well, they walk around fine on the moon in the show and the comic, too, as well. Just those pansy-ass astronauts didn't have the stones to try it.
Right. I love
Man, we need to do that abridged thing.
Yeah, spoilers.
Oh, spoilers.
Like I mentioned earlier, Squirps was like a surprisingly emotional turn at the end of the chapter for me. Mm-hmm. But everything else about that chapter was just kind of annoying. The gravity puzzles in the woe zone were like too easy to get like set yourself back on. Space was completely directionless. The toilet paper. 3D pigs.
That's a random spot to put them in, too.
While I'm thinking about the toilet paper quest, let's take a diversion and talk about how stupid the pixels are.
I hate the pixels.
Yeah,
except for Barry and Cudge.
One of the defining traits, I feel, for the Paper Mario game so far was the partners. Because the partners are always, like, so real and emotional in there and relatable. Yes. They give character to the game where Mario can't, because Mario's a silent protagonist.
Yeah, and then they're more or less blocked out by Tippy being the only one. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tippy's just like the exposition fairy for you. And it's weird because Bowser and Peach and Luigi can talk, but they barely do any talking. I mean, they do talk on occasion, but then there's also the thing where, oh, well, you could be playing as Mario and he doesn't talk, so we still have to have the bad guy or the whatever say the exact same thing that the character just said. And
so Bowser and Peach and Luigi have to say something so inconsequential they may as well not have spoken at all.
Yeah, again, my favorite case of this is after this really emotional speech of Love Bee turning into the pure heart, and basically a family losing their only child, they say, take this heart. And Luigi's just like, okie dokie.
Okay.
It's just literally just okie dokie as a text box. It's so great.
Again, if you wanted more, like, continuity between chapters, like, you'd have to reprogram a lot of the game, because the pixels are just abilities. They're not even characters, they're just abilities.
Right.
Why couldn't you have partners that were, like, specific residents of the different universes?
Because, granted, they would look the exact same anyway. And while we're on this topic, before we go into the next chapter discussion, I don't like the designs of anything in this game. It's all squares.
It's not Mario, it's not Paper Mario.
And it's really weird.
This game had no reason to be Mario at all.
It's really weird because you've got all these weird, like, square designs, like they came out of some fancy schmancy, whatever fancy word, art person's notebook. All these squares that someone made in MS Paint. And then you've got these smooth, rounded, Mario-esque things ripped right from Thousand Year Door.
They did redraw them. For what little it matters, they did redraw them.
Some of them.
No, they redrew all of them. Because in the files of the game, you can actually still find the Thousand Year Door textures for all of them. They did redraw them.
Right. No, I'm thinking of the cards that had the partners from the previous two games. Some of them weren't redrawn. They used the assets that were almost used in Thousand Year Door.
Oh yeah, the cards weren't redrawn.
Right. Yeah. What was the next chapter? Oh
I feel
god.
like Paper Mario, especially the Thousand Year Door, because the Thousand Year Door really took advantage of its paper element. The art style got really creative at times. Like, it was...
Yes.
It was special seeing in Rogueport, like, Spinias were some of the first enemies you see, and they weren't just paper, they were a couple sheets of paper turned sideways. And that was amazing. But then because you had this weird Force 3D mechanic, everybody had to be 2D, and then because they had to look otherworldly, they had to look shit in 2D.
Yeah.
So, Chapter 5 was the Craignons, and I feel like
Yes.
I've said everything I need to say about the Craignon chapter already.
I like this little story in it. I'm not a huge fan of the surfer talk. I don't get why
That
they
was
talk.
so
like
weirdly out
surfers.
of place, because there's already, like, a stock caveman accent in writing.
Yeah. And then there's just Flint Cragnon, who is basically the best character in the game.
He is, but that's because he's just a more cartoonish version of Colorado.
Dude, we're gonna have to, before we end this thing, we're gonna have to talk about the best Paper Mario character of all time. You know this.
Colorado?
No. Flavio!
Oh.
We missed
Right.
out on Flavio completely!
Yeah, we'll end it with that.
Yeah, let's not bring him into the shit stain. Oh man, we're still on Super and we've got like 2 more games to go after this.
1.5, because I can't really talk about Color Splash.
I haven't played it, but I've seen it, so I can talk a bit more about it. But I digress.
I haven't even seen it. Because I want to play it, and I don't want to know everything going into it, so I've mostly avoided Color Splash.
Fair enough. But my main issue with the Cragnon area was mainly the first chapter, because, fuck, you just gotta backtrack back and forth to this one Cragnon who tells you the specific puzzle order of these blocks. You gotta hit them in the right order, and you gotta say, please, please, over and over and over again. Why?
The second section
Why waste everyone's
was surprisingly good, only because it didn't do anything too terribly bad.
Right.
The second section.
Actually, the second section, or actually the third and fourth, kind of meld together, sort of.
No, the
They're not that
third
bad.
and fourth... The third and fourth feel like the same thing in my mind, because they were both in the
Yes.
cave.
Yeah, they were both
No,
in the cave, so they sort of melded together, so that wasn't actually that bad. That was more or less the best moment of, like, hey, this section and this section merge into each other perfectly fine.
The second section was just, like, good old-fashioned platformy fun.
Yeah.
And then it also had a couple, like, side moments that, like, had good comedy value. Like, the...
Yeah.
The not Thudley.
Cudge.
The hammer. Pudge screaming to the sky.
Pudge.
Whatever! Whatever!
I like Pudge. He's the second best partner in the game in my... No, not the second best, but one of the best, because a Paper Mario game has to have a hammer, and that hammer does double the damage. Shit, I'm gonna use it.
That hammer should not have been a partner. That hammer should have been a hammer.
Yeah, I agree. And it probably would have been a hammer if it was still on the GameCube, because Super Paper Mario was developed for the GameCube, and then at the very end got put on the Wii.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still like it because it does do a lot of damage. The best partner in the game is Dottie, who you get in the very same chapter. It makes you tiny, you can run on water, and you're invisible to enemies. They won't see you and they won't attack you, which is a godsend in the pits.
What was I gonna say? I feel like Chapter 5, belies one of the worst parts of Paper Mario, like something that you wouldn't really think about, but on retrospective I realized. Chapter 5, there's no reason to play as anybody but Mario, because Mario's the only one with the 3D mechanic.
Yeah, actually that's something that kind of permeates throughout most of the game.
Yeah,
Not so
that's
much
true for
in
the
like
entire game, but
yeah. But
Chapter 5 is the first time it really stuck out to me, because Chapter 5 was the first chapter where I wanted to play as everybody else.
Yeah. So, the next world... Do we have to delve into those memories? Do I have to open up those wounds?
We can talk about it very briefly. I'm
we
going to compare it to Twilight Town. I'm going to compare it to Twilight Town.
No, Twilight Town isn't nearly as bad.
Twilight Town did not bother me too much on my first playthrough. Like I kind of realized there was too much backtracking, but I was okay with it because it was an interesting location. Yeah. But then every time I go back to it, Twilight Town gets worse.
Yes.
The Sammer Kingdom, I absolutely hated it the first time. It was the most stupid, drawn-out shit ever. But then every time I go back to it, I know what I'm getting into, so it's easier for me to just tune out and ignore the entire thing.
I hate the Sammer Kingdom. I hate it because you've got to go through an entire, section and a half, which is nothing but fights, but without any of the glitz pit things that make the fights interesting.
And so... Again, the only reason I think it's easier on repeated playthroughs is because... you actually have to think about it, and you're expecting it to get better on your first playthrough. But the second time, you know how to just barrel through it, and you know not to expect anything.
Yeah, and if you want to get 100%, you gotta go through that all over again. But it doesn't even stop it there. Even when the entire world gets utterly destroyed, which, granted, it's actually really fucking cool. I love that concept, you're too late to save this world. It gets destroyed. It's gone.
Again, my first impressions and my repeated playthroughs of the destroyed Sammer Kingdom were wildly different. My first time going through it, that slow walk through the barren white world with just a couple pieces of debris, so atmospheric.
It is. It really is. And it's just shit, I fucked up.
But then the next time you go through
it,
it's just
a long walk. It's a long walk. It gets a cool boss fight, but it's a long walk to the boss fight.
There's no boss fight.
Yeah, there is, against Mr. L and Brobot.
That was in space.
Yeah, that was in space, and it was in the void, too.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Because... Okay.
I am positive.
I'll take your word for it.
The Sammer
did not
Kingdom...
leave that strong of an impression on me.
It's a good fight. It's the best thing in the entire chapter. That's why I remember it. Everything else was so goddamn garbage that the Mr. L fight was good. And then...
The fact that you actually fucking die is a pretty standout moment for me.
That chapter actually melds into the next chapter, which I do like. That's actually the only bit of continuity that ever happens, is when a chapter merges into another chapter. That's the only time it happens in the game, and it's really cool.
Yeah, it
'Cause
could
I
have
love
happened 20
the
minutes
beginning part.
earlier.
Yeah, it's basically the best part of the game is when you fucking die. Because that entire section where you get Luigi, like, you get all this stuff, you don't feel like you're doing a section after section after section thing. You feel like you're in a completely new area, you're isolated, you have a mission, and you're going to figure out how to get to the end of it. But
There's
then,
like no new title card or anything.
right, it is not a level, it is a new area, in general. That's how you feel about it, and that's what I like about the beginning of the Underworld, or Underwear. And then you open the door, and then you realize, oh, son of a bitch, I'm gonna have to walk through all this again.
Well, no, they were very nice about... You just have to walk to the end of the first segment to get to the second segment.
It's a bit silly, but it's not nearly as bad as I made it out to be. But that's your first feeling, like, oh no, I already explored everything in the room.
Yeah,
I want to do it again. And then when you
first die, you're like in total bewilderment, like, holy fuck, where am I? What is this? I am
actually
in hell. And then you go back and you're like, oh, fuck me, I'm in hell.
Yes, exactly. There's actually one thing before we continue on with this chapter. I don't like what Super does. They never say die. Well, they say die once or twice, but every other time it's you game overed. You got a game over. His game, it was over. They made that joke once in Thousand Year Door, but the rest they always said die. Say die.
I appreciate that, actually.
It gets
like
old.
in most games, it annoys me. I feel like that like they just turned that into the religious statement in it. Adds to the. I kind of like the fourth wall breaking. We are in a video game self-aware jokes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I can see where it would get annoying.
Yeah. Granted, nothing can prepare you for the shit that happens in the next couple chapters. The second chapter isn't the worst, but the whole, like, hag side quest, you gotta make it through these areas over and over again. The doors, which have the quizzes, that stuff. And the only RPG fight in the game against the Underchomp.
It was very, very fun.
Yeah.
I remember segments 2 and 3 of that chapter having a couple really standout moments and cool
Chapter
ideas.
3 has a standout moment? You tell me that. Chapter 3 is the most boring chapter in the entire game. Or not Chapter 3, but, you know, the third section of this chapter.
But those standout moments are so spread apart, and it's so easy to, like, fall down and lose your progress, and there's so much fluff and filler in between all the funny moments that the funny moments aren't even worth it.
Yeah.
Where I was going with that statement before you interrupted me.
I'm sorry. But can you blame me? Like, the third section is nothing but white and blue. White and blue. Blue eyes, white dragon.
It is the most visually unappealing part of the entire game.
It is.
The only part about segment 3 that I like, the only thing, it's not enough to salvage it, but it's a little bit of humor, give it this, is feeding Peach the different apples that, like, turn her into a giant and give her a mustache.
I love the mustache one.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, she wakes up with the mustache. You could just, like, wax that shit off, but no, she just falls asleep again. It's really weird. Like, just keep feeding her that
Facial
and
hair
wax
was
off
too
that
dramatic
mustache.
for her.
And why doesn't eating the apples do that same thing to you?
Because you're not cursed? Why was she asleep in the first place, now that I think about it?
Because she ate the apple or whatever, religious subtext, whatever shit. She ate the golden apple.
If Princess Peach was such a good person and she was the only one that got up to heaven, like, why did it not just deposit her directly into heaven? Why did it drop her into a middle of a cloud field and say, oh, you want to go to heaven? You need to get climbing, bitch. Yeah.
Well, you never know the things that Peach does. If actually, as a matter of fact, why did they actually all die, or was it technically just Dementio teleporting them all over, because I don't know.
I think a bit of both. Like, Dimencio had a vested interest in getting them to the next area, and I think he knew that, like, actually killing them would get them there.
Yeah, probably.
Because,
so it's basically
like
like a God of War thing, where, oh, you get killed, but you can just climb out of hell. But then you wonder, where are your bodies? Where are your original bodies?
Yeah, because, like, when Queen Jade sent you back, I do remember her saying something, like, she didn't say, like,
game
oh,
over,
crap,
game over,
you're not
game
dead.
over, game over, continue. Oh, that too, I guess.
Yeah, she didn't say, like, oh, crap, you're alive, why are you here? She said, you died too early. I'll send you back.
So it's basically Yu Yu Hakusho.
Kinda. I should really rewatch that.
That was a good anime.
That was the first anime That was the first anime I watched, and I convinced my parents to tape it for me, because it was on after, like, my bedtime most nights. And I am so glad that they never, like, screened that, because that was not appropriate for a 9-year-old.
Yeah, it had a good-ish GBA game. I should play that sometime.
Okay. As much as I was encouraging us getting off topic earlier, we are 2 hours, 10 minutes into this.
We are 2 hours, yeah. But, yeah. And then there was the boss of that chapter, which... Oh, yeah,
came out of nowhere.
Yeah, the boss and its enemies just sort of came out of nowhere. It's like, oh, by the way, there's these hell spawns that were locked away in the deepest pits of the underwear.
There was a little bit of foreshadowing, but it was completely optional. Which is not how you should do plot-mandatory bosses.
Yeah. Also, what's with the random floating, like, traffic signs? Those also appear in, like, the Flora Sapiens home, but it's just kind of, why? Why are they there? Why are they in heaven and in the cave? It's weird. I probably shouldn't have, like, focused on them so much, but you can tell where I got incredibly bored. But after that chapter is the final chapter.
We should talk about the Love Bee scene for a moment. Because they were... The Love Bee scene.
Oh, okay.
They were trying to make it another hard-hitting moment, but the problem was Granby, Jades, and Love Bee I had absolutely no connection or feeling to at all.
You never see them all interact together until the very end of the chapter, for one, so you don't really get a feel for their, like, character, like, involvement together. You also spend the entirety of the whole chapter disliking Love Bee because she's a piece of shit. Because she is a piece of shit. All three of them do nothing but complain about each other the entire time. And then you're supposed to feel bad that you're breaking apart this happy family or whatever. Well, Jade's I actually kind of like because she helps you out, and you meet her earlier. She's the only character that you meet earlier. She's the only character that got characterization. Funny how that works. And, yeah, but then the whole scene was just, oh, we're trying to make this scene something like Bobbery and Scarlet, except, no. Bobbery and Scarlet was a much harder-hitting scene, because, first off, Scarlet actually stayed dead. Loveby comes back in the post-game, so that's bullshit. No reason. That's the same shit. It also doesn't make sense that they tried to hide the pure heart as a child anyway. Yeah, the child the child of the devil and God. That's not gonna raise suspicion at all. And even the bad guy of the chapter even knew! He knew! He knew that she was the pure heart. So why hide it? I feel like just putting it in a really good safe would be more safe than putting it in an easily kidnappable child body. Also, like, oh man, why would you not tell her? We've got to save this pure heart for this hero that we know has to take it and save the world someday. Let's just turn it into something that we're going to get an immediate attachment to and we'll never ever want to give away ever. Except, oh shit, we have to because the world's ending. Oops, who would have seen that coming? There's no reason for her not to know. I mean, like, for her own safety or whatever shit, but... For her to exist to begin with. Like, it's...
But if she has to exist, you should raise her, like, with the knowledge that she's going to die someday.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that you teach normal children, that death exists.
Well, to be fair, it'd be really weird for them to teach her that she's going to die when literally everyone here is already technically dead.
That's actually kind of another thing that bugs me, is because you only ever see, like, Chapter 7 specific people in Chapter 7. You don't really get the impression that it's the afterlife for the entire multiverse. You just get the impression that it's another universe in the multiverse.
Yeah. Also, why does every angel speak in a doth thou musteth speaketh thiseth wayeth? Like,
Because
do you have to speak that way?
The only way they're able to differentiate any species in this game is by giving them an accent. Have you not noticed?
My apologies.
Bro.
First off, it's bra. Second off, fuck. That's all.
I'm too white to be able to say bra.
Most surfers are, well, stereotypical surfers in, like, TV shows and shit are white. They just have tans.
I'm too northern Midwestern white to say bra.
Yep.
Better?
Fair enough.
Chapter 8.
Everyone dies.
It was challenging. There was good platforming.
It looked visually boring. I love the level. I love the chapter.
It looked visually interesting to begin with, but after 4 segments of it, there was nothing else you could do with it.
But hey, on the plus side, it's not as drastic a change as a grassland to a desert.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the chapter, and it does have its good moments. But I actually recently watched a playthrough of it, of like a European copy of the game, and instead of like, there are instances where like Bowser and Peach like beat up the Ochunks and Mimi, and they say that in the text, "Aw, did I hit you too hard?" Mm-hmm. In the PAL version, that stuff is changed to, "Aw, did I yell at you too loud?" What? What?
No, because Europe has the most ridiculous censors.
What the hell? No, that would be Australia, but Europe's a close second.
Europe was the original censor king.
Yeah. Australia's pretty friggin' bad, though.
Yeah.
Poor Left 4 Dead 2.
Australia's bad about letting adult content happen. Europe is bad about letting child content be anything other than preschool appropriate.
Yeah, so everyone yells instead of fighting each other. Mario yells with his feet.
Another one of those things, just a simple change that I think could have made, like, most of the problems with Chapter 8 go away, because Chapter 8 didn't have nearly as many problems as the other chapters, but, like, what if Chapter 8 happened and they didn't, like, give you an end block and a title card for each section? Just to make it feel like one gigantic castle.
It depends, because then it would sort of go into the Freedom Planet thing, where if it's going to have breaks, it should have, like, full-on standard breaks. But it's also a Paper Mario game, and I feel it would be a lot more climactic as a final area for it to be in one big stretch.
I feel like you would still get your, like, definitive sections, because each section would end with your Peach versus Mimi,
each section
Bowser
ends with a
versus
party
Ochunks boss fight.
The party members
but
slowly losing.
I feel like it actually does kind of undercut the tension of it all when you go through this big boss fight and then a dramatic scene where everybody dies, and then Mario jumps into a star block and...
Happy music!
Yeah, that. But I'm also thinking, like, if it was just one long level, that would also make the, like, non-changing aesthetic a little more bearable.
Right. I also like how the sections that you go through in the final chapter are areas that you were in the Peach and Luigi intermissions.
Yeah. It didn't have the same effect, though.
Yeah.
Like, in the first two Mario games... In the first two Mario games, going back to Peach's castle after you've been playing the Peach intermissions, and especially going to the moon again after
those were
the
great
Peach sections.
Those were done a lot better, but I still like that they kept that tradition.
Yeah.
And it is still neat, even though it's hard to realize it when everything looks the goddamn same. Everything looks the goddamn same on this goddamn planet!
They did try to keep a lot of the traditions in Super Paper Mario, but because Super Paper Mario is so much
doesn't feel like a Mario
Paper Mario game, really. You mentioning most of these now is the first time I've thought about most of these parallels.
And and when you realize it, it's pretty bad. Yeah.
Like, points for trying. Points for trying,
but points taken away for being pieces of shit. Also, I wanna ask this really serious question. When all of these worlds, or at least the very least Flipside and Flopside, are dying, why doesn't Merlin and Nolrim, or why don't Merlin and Nolrim take them to the Sammer Kingdom where the voids already hit them? Because you can go back into that place and it's a void, yeah, but there's still technically...
But you wouldn't die, and then you could find a new dimension to rebuild.
Exactly, and there's still some bits and pieces of the scenery that weren't completely destroyed. You can find enough of them, build a city, get shops. I'm sure the place would regrow new things. Sure, you might have to turn into cannibals, but there's like 50 million of you altogether. It won't be too much of a problem. Have enough babies. But they could have done that. And I know it's not as climactic if, these people would be safe, and all those other dimensions would have been destroyed, but still, it's something that I realized, and it's like, they could have done that. They wouldn't die.
The Sammer Kingdom blowing up gave you a really good feel for the stakes of it.
Yes.
But I feel like the Sammer Kingdom blowing up is the only time in the entire game you actually felt like the universe was in danger.
Yeah.
Because nobody seems to acknowledge the gigantic gaping void growing in the sky.
Yeah, everyone goes about their daily lives, stressing about not being able to get the editorial page on time. And then you get to the end where Dimentio's a real final bad guy. Count Black and Tippy get married. It's all really nice and great. Mario has nothing to do with it. He has jack all to do with it. He's just the guy that beats the shit out of the final boss.
There was a lot of Deus Ex Machinas right in a row at the very end.
Yes.
But I like Blumiere and Lady Timpani so much. I'm willing to ignore it.
I like it a lot. Yeah, and again, story, fantastic. The characters, the ones that are given characterization, fantastic. I love them. I like Dimentio as a card-carrying villain. I like how, throughout most of the game, you get the impression that maybe he's not a complete bad guy, and he is trying to, edge you on, to help you out. And it's only at the very end when you get the assured knowledge that, yes, he's a complete bad guy, and you need to stop him.
He wanted you to think he wasn't a total bad guy, so he could be even more of a bad guy.
That's not something that happens a lot in video games.
I don't want to say that I want more, dimension to Dimentio. Haha. Because I do like him just being, this super evil, you said card-carrying villain.
Yes.
I do kind of wish we had more... Dimentio scenes, period, and more motive for him. Because even though he is a really great final boss, I do feel like he kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yes, and I think more scenes would have complemented that, but I do think that the scenes that he is given, he's very mysterious, and you're not quite sure what direction he is, and it's only really at the end, and you realize he's not with any side except his own. It's neat. I like it. But it needs to be done better, really. And it could have been done better, I should say.
You know how in Ace Attorney, if you're not sure who the villain is, you can usually tell who it is by who you haven't spoken to?
Yeah, more or less.
That's
Unless
kind of
they're-
what happened with Dementio to me. Like, we
Yeah.
got a feeling for Ochunks and Mimi, and especially for Nastasia, but then we didn't hear anything from Dementio, like, until toward the end of the game, and I thought, well, okay, obviously there's something I should be suspicious about here.
Yeah. I mean, it's not as obvious as, say, Alba or the Spirit of Justice's final, murderer.
Oh yeah, no, but there are a couple cases where it's like actually a good whodunit. I think the one that stands out to me the most is GK22, Roland. Roland seems like really nice and helpful when you first meet her, but then towards the end of the case, you're just like, she's been suspiciously absent, hasn't she?
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. But it's super. I will say, in general, it's not a terrible game. It's polished. It works. It's just, it does a lot of things that frustrate me to no end. And a lot of the stuff that frustrates me feels like it was done intentionally. It doesn't feel like a Paper Mario game. Hell, it doesn't even feel like a Mario game in general. It feels like Intelligent Systems made a story, they made these characters, they made all these designs, they were going to do something with them, and at the very end decided, let's slap on Paper Mario because that sells.
I think some of my forgiveness for Super Paper Mario also stems from the fact that when it was new, I was very convinced that the mixed reception it got meant that Nintendo was going to go back to form. And then especially when we got, like, the 3DS teaser for a new Paper Mario game that looked like it was going to be like the original in the Thousand Year Door.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was willing to accept Super Paper Mario as a momentary diversion, and then the series was going to snap back. When that didn't happen... Yeah, when that didn't happen, my opinion on Super Paper Mario has soured a little bit, but like so many years of liking it and being an apologist for it, I feel like I can't properly hate it now, you know?
Well, also, after Sticker Star, most people generally feel like, yeah, Super was shit, but,
it wasn't Sticker
there's
Star.
worse. And then you get to me, and then this is where everyone in the world gasps and faints. I like Sticker Star more than Super. Shock and awe,
Faint.
I know. So,
I
while
already knew that, but...
While I'm going to Rogueport and getting that noose tied around my neck, let me explain why I like Sticker Star more than Super. Now, I've played Sticker Star more recently than I've played Super, and I will admit, Super is a lot more due for a replay, but what I feel about Sticker Star is that, no, its characterizations aren't as good. No, there is no story. Bowser and Peach don't even talk. Yes, that's terrible. Yes, there's too many Toads. Yes, it is, by and large, the safest Paper Mario in existence. But it feels Mario. It feels like a Mario game. Yeah, granted, people wanted it to go back to the true classic Thousand Year Door and 64 style gameplay, and it tried to sort of, and then it just fell flat and became absolute garbage. Well, not even then, it's just pointless. The battles are more or less pointless. Because you don't attack with your own abilities, you get special stickers that you use to fight, and that's stupid. And you get coins from battles that you can use to purchase more stickers, but you can also just get stickers lying around, and you get coins lying around. Battles are absolutely pointless, there's no use in fighting them, and the bosses, you need a specific sticker in order to deal with them. A specific one. However, I do think that it was a slight turn back to what they wanted Paper Mario to originally be. And I feel like the area designs are sort of like that. Now, they're still not interconnected like they should be. Like, they're still sort of stylized like Super Paper Mario's chapters, and that still sucks. But I will say that the areas feel more Mario-esque. You get a more Mario feel for them. and the areas are enjoyable to look at. They're not super duper unique, but for what they are, they work. They work well, and they're not specifically designed to frustrate you. I believe all the frustrations of Sticker Star is due to the fact that it's not what people wanted, and I didn't want it either. But it doesn't intentionally frustrate you. It frustrates you because it could have been something good, but it wasn't designed in the way that it could have been good. It was designed in a really flawed system. And yeah, it's a flawed system that they used. And it could have been good. The previews prove that immensely. But I still feel that there's enjoyable moments. I like Kamek. I actually think he's a pretty good character. He's a piece of shit, and he knows it. And he gets like that really good theme that fits his character perfectly. Like, it's a theme that fits a character that you want to beat the shit out of. Yes?
Proto.
Yes?
I'm sorry. As fun as that was like a 3-minute rant, and I want to break in with a few things.
Good point.
I will agree that it feels more like a Mario game. My problem is that it doesn't really feel like a Paper Mario game to me. Like, I would have actually I would have accepted it a lot more if it was just a Mario spin-off point blank than a Paper Mario.
You know, I think that would have been better received, I feel. I think it would have been better received in general. But it's the fact that it was put on the Paper Mario, line of games that it's really hated because, yeah, it's not Paper Mario.
I think the only specific thing I wanted to comment on and why I stopped you right there is I also really like Kamek in this game. I will say that too. But again, just because it's living off of the Paper Mario title, like, Kammy Koopa only exists in Paper Mario, and losing Kammy Koopa was unacceptable to me. Like,
yeah, though granted, they lost her in Super, and I guess she died of old age or something, which, that sucks.
We lost everyone in Super, and there was at least a reason for it.
Yeah, there was at least a reason.
Can you imagine how fun it would be to have Sticker Star's Kamek and Kammy Koopa, like, bicker at each other sometime in the last level?
Yes, that would have been hilarious. Like, imagine if, like, Kamek was, like, her grandson or something, and she's, like, berating him on constantly, like, not doing his job well, and... Sandals? Why are you trying to make do you want to be laughed at? You're letting Mario slap you with sandals that you gave him? What's wrong with you? You gotta use your magic.
You have magic! Just take his stickers away!
Throw blocks on him, you dipshit! Yeah, that would have been great. And there are, like, references to, like, the Paper Mario series. You got, like, a Goombella. You got a Rock Hawk reference, I think, somewhere. Yeah.
I mean, just to compare it to Super, like, Super was nothing like a Paper Mario game. We covered that very thoroughly. But the couple things it did really well, it did well enough for me to forgive it. There was nothing done well enough in Sticker Star to make me forgive it.
But the things that Sticker Star that you find, unforgivable is not so much that the gameplay's bad, it's just that it's not a Paper Mario game. That's what I'm generally getting? Is that people don't say that the gameplay is, oh god, it's the worst kind of gameplay ever. I just find people are, like, irritated at the fact that it doesn't play a bit like Paper Mario in the slightest, which, again, I completely
have a lot
agree.
of problems with the gameplay, too, honestly.
Alright.
But I feel like most of the problems with the gameplay are...
stickers for bosses? The thing stickers are the worst parts for me.
Yeah, the thing stickers for the bosses. All the problems I have with the gameplay come from the fact that it was very obviously retooled at the last minute.
Yes.
A lot of the, like, even better parts of Sticker Star lack that kind of polish that you expect from a Nintendo game. Because it was very clearly in development as a sequel to the Thousand Year Door, and then at the last minute, they rewrote the entire game engine.
Right. And I also will have to say, I don't think that's entirely Miyamoto's fault. Like, a lot of the blame is put on Miyamoto for telling him, well, do this thing instead. And, which, yeah, it is kind of Miyamoto's fault that they
Some of the blame has to go on
made
the
everyone
developer for not saying no.
Right, yeah. And also, it is kind of his fault for more or less everyone being a toad, but I don't think Miyamoto had any, like, say in the gameplay shifting. That's all on Intelligent Systems.
Oh no, that was Miyamoto. Because
really,
I don't. If I remember correctly, nobody quote me on this. I don't think Miyamoto even wanted the 1,000-Year Door to play like 64. Miyamoto wanted Paper Mario to be a series that was a brand new experience every single time.
I don't remember hearing that. All I remember hearing was that Miyamoto told them, you don't need a good story to make a good Mario game. That's all I remember them, like, hearing from him. Which...
And I mean, also to be fair, I think Sticker Star was received a lot better in Japan than it was in the US.
I think so.
And Nintendo tends to value its Japanese audience a lot more for obvious reasons.
Yeah, though the Western audience in general can influence a lot of things, mainly with Mario 2 USA. Like, that was one of the biggest influences from the West, was just that change into Mario.
Yeah,
but yeah, I see what you're getting.
I don't know, I feel like that's a special circumstance.
Yeah. I get what you're talking about. But yeah, I feel like Sticker Star doesn't do anything inherently wrong by itself. It's the fact that it's a Paper Mario game that is just, is very not good. And that's the entire thing. When I look at it by itself, I think it's a fine game. It has its good moments. I love the Haunted Mansion with the boos. Mainly the Disco Fever boo fight. That's just so good. It's so good. And another thing, I love the music. Some of the best music in the entire Mario series. I can only say that outright.
So many times. Even taking the Paper Mario bias out of it, Sticker Star is a C- game at absolute best.
Yeah, it's an okay game. Okay,
if it was
at most.
If it was a good game or a great game, I think I would have a completely different opinion about the Paper Mario series changing so drastically. But if it's not able to deliver as Paper Mario, and it's not able to deliver a perfect experience to justify not being Paper Mario, why is it there?
It has nothing special going for it. Exactly. It's there.
If it was planned to be Sticker Star from the very beginning, I'm certain that it would have been a wonderful game. I would have no problems with it. I wouldn't even be mad that it's not Paper Mario.
Right. But that's my thing, is like, when I compare Super to Sticker Star, when I look at it from the Paper Mario perspective, it's a shit Paper Mario game.
It's closer to a Mario experience.
But when I see it by itself, it's an okay game, which, yeah, okay game, not that great. I got like 5,000 other games. I will play them before Sticker Star. But Super, even by its own self, has things that openly frustrate me and that I don't want to go through. When a game has moments that I just don't want to go through, I'd rather play an okay game that has no real terrible moments than a game that has really fucking shitty moments that bring it down to the ground.
Let's put it this way. If Sticker Star didn't exist, and the next game in the Paper Mario series after Super Paper Mario was Color Splash, I think I'd like it. I'd be fine with it. I'd be okay with the series changing direction. Because Color Splash is a good game in its own right.
Color Splash was intended to be Color Splash.
Color Splash is what Sticker Star wanted to be.
Yes.
But because Sticker Star's in the middle there, I can't even like Color Splash now, because Color Splash isn't a good game in its own right. It's Nintendo doubling down on making Sticker Star bad.
Yeah, more or less. And, neither of us have played Color Splash, so this really won't take long at all. I've seen Color Splash, and it's better. There's more characterizations, there's, like, little side plots with characters that get changing dialogue. You save some Toad, and there's this whole story about like these guys and their friend ends up being a piranha plant, and it's like, holy shit, their friend's not a toad. My god. Oh.
I'm really gonna try to like it, because I think there is stuff in Color Splash to like. It's just gonna be an uphill battle overcoming my biases going in.
It's very humorous.
And that's why I've waited so long to play it.
It's very humorous, it's got its good moments. It's still, the world map is still styled-ish like Sticker Star, but the areas are more interconnected with each other. They have more flowing narratives. These places will interact with different places, and it's neat. And
the battle
I like
system in Color Splash is worse. The battle system is useful again because you like actually get something for fighting people.
Yes, you get experience, which gives you more paint power.
No, just like the way it's set up, like you have to scroll through your billion cards, and then you have to hold the thing there for an extra second that you really shouldn't need to color it in, and then flick it, and you can't aim it at a specific enemy.
That's true, yeah.
Those are all minor annoyances. But again, if Sticker Star didn't exist, I don't think I'd be that mad about it. It's just the fact that even Sticker Star had a better battle system, which makes me wonder, like, why did you add in these extra 2 minor annoyances?
Yeah, that's a good point. But I do feel like, in general, battle system aside, you will enjoy the experience itself. Not the battles, then the areas, because the areas do go back to a Paper Mario feel. There's like there's throwbacks to 64.
I know I'm gonna like it, Proto.
There's throwbacks to Thousand Year Door. There's a throwback to fucking Super, of all things.
You don't need to try and sell the game to me, Proto. I know I'm gonna like it. I just know that I need to be like in a very specific place to be ready to like it. And I'm not in that place right now. I feel like there's so much more about Sticker Star I want to complain about, but I can't really think of anything. Because like same way
mainly because
64 is like a fuzzy happy place in my memory, Sticker Star is a fuzzy fuck you place in my memory.
And you're the one that wants to replay that.
I do, but I feel like it deserves at least a second playthrough, because, I don't know, maybe I'll be able to enjoy it when I'm not pissed off that it exists. Yeah. I'll be able to look at it more closely and try to...
Right. And hey, we'll both be experiencing our favorite Mario games, or Paper Mario games, in different ways. I'll get to see you,
and I'll be able to miss all that bullshit about go to the boss and then die and then find the item and then go back to the boss and then take it out like it's nothing.
Yeah, and
that is the worst part of Sticker Star.
Yes, the worst part of Sticker Star, bar none. It's the worst. But
so like, just as a challenge, the first boss I took out without using the fan sticker, even though I had the fan sticker in my inventory.
No, you need the scissors.
The first time I saw it. The scissors?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the fan. Okay.
No, it was the scissors. But I didn't use the scissors because I didn't know.
I didn't use the scissors. Even though I had the scissors with me, and it was like super obviously hinting at using the scissors, I could have sworn it was the fan.
It could be the fan too. It could be either one.
Because it was the Goomba that like separated into like 15 parts, and the fan blew the parts apart.
Anyway, actually, it could be both.
And I was still able to beat it.
Yeah, me too.
And that was fun to me, because like I always fight Hooktail without the sound effects badge, because I like the extra little bit of challenge, because I'm an advanced player at this point. I don't need that advantage.
Right.
So I was so disappointed when I got to the second world boss, and what's the second world boss? The Pokey?
Yes. The baseball field.
The sports Pokey out of nowhere?
Yeah, in the ancient Egyptian pyramid.
I'll complain about that a bit. That has too much life to take out without the baseball bat, which pissed me off, because I thought, like...
Yeah.
I feel like I should be able to fight it, like, just on my own, if that's what I want to do.
Right.
Especially because I've been stockpiling all these super great stickers I never get to use.
And then the blooper's even worse. It's got the best song in the game, but it's the worst boss fight.
Oh my god, that song.
It's so good! It's such a good song!
I love it.
I love it. I love Sticker Star's music. It's so good. But that boss fight is the best song in the game. But it's the worst fight in the entire thing.
And that's kind of why I want to replay it too, because even though I hate Sticker Star more than anything, I don't want to hate it. It's proven to me that it has lovable parts, and I want to form more good memories with it, with the good parts, however few there may be. But no, the pokey thing pisses me the fuck off, because there was nothing to even suggest it. Like it was Egyptian themed all the way up until the boss room, and then the boss room dropped the Egyptian theme entirely, and you're in a baseball stadium. Yeah. Like maybe I would have actually been
have a baseball bat and a baseball,
like baseball stuff in it, because then I would have been able to predict. Oh, I'm probably gonna need the bat here.
Yeah, that would have been actually good foreshadowing.
Yeah, and I feel like you actually get a tiny bit of that with some of the later bosses.
Yes,
like
the giant snowman. Jesus, I wonder what I gotta use.
The sponge for the blooper like makes sense on a cosmic level because the sponge is the only thing.
It's like the Mega
related.
Man boss weaknesses. You use logic.
Yeah, and then some of them don't make sense, but the ones that don't make sense, the game goes out of its way more to foreshadow.
Except for the Pokemon.
Because that's how it works. I was talking about Mega Man.
Oh
yeah,
right,
no, they don't foreshadow shit in Sticker Star, but...
Right. But, I guess there's one more technical Paper Mario game, Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. The last Mario RPG. Paper Mario RPG.
I have not played Paper Jam.
I have.
The only thing I'm gonna say about Paper Jam is a couple different Nintendo employees, Intelligent System employees, people who work on Paper Mario, have said repeatedly that, Paper Mario doesn't need to be an RPG because you already have the Mario and Luigi series. And I cannot disagree with that more, because the Paper Mario games and the Mario and Luigi series have such wildly different senses of humor. One of them is console-based, one of them is handheld-based, they have a different game feel, different everything.
Paper Mario's
except
more
for the
of a
fact
beginning RPG. Paper Mario's more of a beginning
It's a feel-good RPG.
Yeah.
It's a feel-good RPG that you can actually feel emotional about.
Yeah, Sticker Star is more of a, like, fantasy-ish, like... It's a little bit more of a traditional RPG. They have a different feel. And, like...
You mean Mario and Luigi?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Mario and Luigi. I love Mario and Luigi series, by the way. That's a discussion on its own.
So do I.
But yeah, Paper Jam is the last time we've ever seen Paper Mario in an RPG setting, and I'm so glad that they do reference, like, the original Paper Mario stuff, like, you can turn into a paper airplane and fly, you can turn flat and go through cracks. I like that. And, funny Paper Bowser, talking Paper Peach. This was all before Color Splash.
Sticker Star started a little, and Paper Jam just cemented it, and this is... Again, the big reason I haven't played it yet. I'll probably play it eventually just for, like, completionism's sake. Sticker Star and Paper Jam cemented the fact that Paper Mario is more like Mario and Luigi now than it ever has been, and I don't have hope of getting it back to what it used to be. The reason that people who work on it keep saying, you don't need it because they're the same, is because the people working on it think they're the same, even if the fans don't.
Right. But then you also realize, every time there's been, like, a virtual console on a Nintendo system, one of the first Nintendo 64 games they put on there is Paper Mario 64. And that does really well.
Huge up spike in sales, and yeah, you would think that would give them a clue, but yeah, Nintendo's never been good at reading their audience.
I think once the Switch gets GameCube Virtual Console games, and we get Thousand Year Door on the go, they might get a different idea that, oh shit, these RPGs actually sell well, let's actually put effort into them. It's gonna happen at some point.
We're gonna get Thousand Year Door 2 approximately 3 weeks after we get Mother 3.
Oh, fuck. Well, hey, we got 2 Metroid games announced at E3. I'm expecting an F-Zero game next year.
Well, because all the cards are lined up for the next F-Zero game, because I still forget what it's called, but there was that indie game that was on the Switch Virtual Console.
Hyper Drift, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. That's basically an F-Zero game in everything but name.
They're either going to
Because
get them to make the next F-Zero, or they're going to get Sega again, or whatever. And either way, they're going to get someone else to do it, because I guess Nintendo themselves can't do it themselves. I said themselves a lot, so I repeated it over and over again to run it into the ground.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about Nintendo right now, because all I want is a new Star Fox game.
I knew it was gonna happen. I knew it.
But, yeah...
You're going to shit on... Explodes, you're going to shit on Star Fox Zero in every single podcast, and then when you finally get to playing the game for the channel, you'll have nothing new to talk about it, because you already talk shit about it everywhere else.
I haven't said anything specifically about what I don't like about it.
True, but you're gonna get into it.
But now that you said that, I'm going to take it as a personal challenge, and I will shit on Star Fox Zero on every single podcast.
Oh, dear.
No, all I was going to say is all I want is a new Star Fox game, but because I just got a new Star Fox game, that means I have to wait another decade for another chance at a new Star Fox game.
Not another decade, maybe half a decade.
It's going to be a decade. With how lukewarm the reception was to Star Fox Zero, like, they're not even going to continue the crap I didn't like in Star Fox Zero. They're going to give it another hard reboot in another 10 years.
I feel bad for them, because Platinum Games has a very good history of making good, and then Star Fox Zero was the one time when they had to have that obligatory, and I feel really bad for them, because if they made, like, I don't know, if they got, like, a smaller game to work on that wasn't just one level in Bayonetta 2, I think they would have done a lot better.
I am actually fine with a lot of the things people complain about in Star Fox Zero. Really? Huge departures in control schemes, that's okay with me, because I'm one of those weird people who like Star Fox Command.
I hate that game.
It's just that Star Fox Zero did not add anything to the Star Fox lore because it's another fucking soft reboot. If you put the weird-ass controls onto, like, a post-Command storyline, or hell, even if you retold the Command storyline, but more coherently than Command did, it would have been a fine game in my book. It would have been hard to pick up and get into, but it would have been a fine game overall. I wouldn't have
what's
nearly as many complaints about it.
Really dumb about the soft reboot is that it's Star Fox 64 with better graphics. A couple years after we got Star Fox 64 with better graphics.
Yeah.
You know, then, though...
I don't know. My only hope is that because it's a soft reboot, I'm hoping that they're only replacing 64 in the timeline. Which means that if another game comes out, they can set it post-Assault without having to redo the entire timeline, you know?
I wouldn't mind an HD remake of Assault. I love Assault.
You know what would be really great? Because Adventure was, like, changed and rushed out at the last minute because Rare got bought out.
Yeah.
Like, what if they what if they did an HD version of Adventures, but
you get to
they
use
put an extra... But they put an extra 2 months of work into it, because that's how much time they lost in the original development cycle.
True. It could work.
Because then it would... God, we should probably do a separate Star Fox podcast sometime.
Yeah.
Just about 3 hours. I think we hit everything we want to do. I'll probably upload this in 2 parts, just because I feel bad putting a 3-hour file on YouTube.
True, but also it's a podcast.
No, I'll upload it the same day. It's
okay,
just...
Okay,
ugh.
that works. Yeah.
If I see a 3-hour video, I am not going to click a 3-hour video.
Yeah.
But if I see 2-hour-and-a-half videos that are clearly connected, I could watch them.
Okay, alright, fair enough. I was not expecting this to be 3 hours.
I'm kinda happy it was.
Me too. And I'm kinda glad that we didn't get too sidetracked. Aside from, like, moments where we got pretty heavily sidetracked, but we mostly kept it, like, in this 3 hours, we had, like, 2.5 of Paper Mario. And I think that's a good amount.
This is a good reminder for us. If we're doing, like, entire series podcasts, we need to stay on topic a lot more. When we're just doing, like, single game podcasts, I think we can veer off more.
Yeah. So how do we end this off? Boom boom diggy diggy day all night?
I don't know.
Just remember, we gotta cut off Duplus's name, or the P in his name. Wink, because I winked in real life and you wouldn't be able to see that because this isn't a video chat. This is all voice.
No. I noticed like 4 times, like I started waggling my eyebrows and shrugging my shoulders and I realized no one's gonna get that. I really hope the eye waggle came across in my voice.
Yeah. Dude,
No,
we
I
could.
had an art teacher in high school. Who ended every class on Friday. And I'm gonna end this the same way, and it sticks with me because it sounded super dorky, but it's a good message. Don't drive after you've been drinking, and don't get in a car with someone who's been drinking, because that's just stupid. And every single Friday, I made sure I was listening to the song Alcohol by Bare Naked Ladies as she said it. Bye.